Welcome to Value Plays Only, where everyone's a threat, but no one's a problem. Today, we have Tyler, playing Dargo the Shipwrecker and Tymna the Weaver. This deck looks to loop Dargo with Relic Legends or Burgi and a Sacrifice Outlet, or it can win with Underworld Breach. His hand contains a Goblin Bombardment, Defense Grid, Lotus Petal, Chrome Mox, Sacrifice, Vampiric Tutor, and Arid Mesa. Cami is playing Tasigur, the Golden Fang. This evolution list looks to ladder Tasigur into massive threats. It plays several infinite mana combos with Tasigur and Thassa's Oracle. Her hand contains a Ledger Shredder, Mental Misstep, Felwar Stone, Otawara Soaring City, and Misty Rainforest. Her Luna Mulligans are Flusterstorm and Devoted Druid. Dan is playing Nixilis, Captive Kingpin. This is a Rakdos Storm deck pretending to be a stacks deck. It is loaded up with 1 damage ping effects to generate massive card advantage through Ob. It can win with Agatha Soul Cauldron or Dualcaster Mage. His hand contains a Goblin Engineer, Razorkin Needlehead, Reckless Fireweaver, Soul Ring, Mox Amber, Verdant Catacombs, and Bloodstained Mire. John is playing Lumra, Bellow of the Woods. This is a landfall combo deck. It can assemble many different infinite combos with any land untapping ability. It can often win only through activated abilities once it gets going. His hand contains Sylvan Library, Spelunking, Elvish Spirit Guide, Vesuva, Arid Archway, and Wooded Foothills. His Luna Mulligan is a Famished World Sire. And with that, let's see some value plays. Tyler starts things off with an Arid Mesa. He pays a life and cracks it, fetching up a Badlands. He casts a Chrome Mox. It resolves and he imprints Path to Exile. He casts a Lotus Petal. Tyler then taps out to cast his commander, Tymna the Weaver. With a blazing turn 1, Tyler passes the turn. Cami plays a Misty Rainforest for turn. She pays a life and cracks it, fetching up a Bayou. Cami passes the turn. Dan plays a Bloodstained Mire as land for turn. He pays a life and cracks it, fetching up a Badlands. He casts a Soul Ring. He follows it up with a Mox Amber. Dan then passes the turn. John plays a Wooded Foothills for turn. He pays a life and cracks it, fetching up a Forest. John exiles Elvish Spirit Guide from his hand to cast Collector Oof, hoping to slow down those wild starts. John then passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He goes straight to combat, swinging Tymna at Dan. Dan takes the damage. In his second main phase, Tymna triggers. Tyler pays 1 to draw 1 card. He then casts Goblin Welder. Missing his land drop, Tyler passes the turn. Cami untaps and draws. She plays a Bloodstained Mire as land for turn. She pays a life and cracks it, fetching up an Underground Sea. She casts a Ledger Shredder. Cami then passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays a Verdant Catacombs as land for turn. He pays a life and cracks it, fetching up a Blood Crypt, into play untapped, paying 2 life. He casts Razorkin Needlehead. Dan then passes the turn. John untaps and draws. Razorkin triggers, tipping him for 1. He plays a Vesuva as land for turn, into play tapped as a copy of Bayou. John then passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. Razorkin triggers, tipping him for 1. He goes to combat, swinging Tymna at John. John takes the damage. In his second main phase, Tymna triggers. Tyler pays 1 to draw a card. Razorkin triggers, tipping him for 1. Tyler passes the turn, missing a land drop yet again. Cami untaps and in her upkeep, she casts Worldly Tutor. She finds an Orcish Bowmasters and draws it for turn. Razorkin triggers to pick her for 1. Cami plays an Otawara, Soaring City as land for turn. She casts Orcish Bowmasters. Ledger Shredder triggers to connive Felwar Stone, getting a 1/1 counter. Razorkin triggers to ping her for 1. Bowmaster enters, pinging Goblin Welder, killing it. Cami then passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays a Swamp for turn. He casts a Cabal Ritual, adding 3 black mana. Dan taps out to cast his commander, Nixilis, Captive Kingpin. Ledger Shredder triggers to connive Talisman of Dominance, getting a counter. Razorkin triggers to ping her for 1. Ob resolves and Dan passes the turn. John untaps and draws. Razorkin triggers to ping him for 1. Nixilis triggers to get a counter and exile Grim Monolith. John casts an Amulet of Vigor. He plays an Arid Archway for turn. Arid Archway and Amulet of Vigor trigger. John untaps Archway and then bounces Vesuva back to hand. John taps out to cast Spelunking. Ledger Shredder triggers to connive Command Tower. Razorkin triggers to ping Cami for 1. Nixilis triggers to get a counter and exile Polluted Delta. Spelunking resolves and triggers. John draws a card and puts Urza's Saga into play, getting its first counter. Bowmaster and Razorkin trigger. Razorkin pings him for 1. Nixilis triggers to get a counter and exile Kenzin, Crucible of Defiance. Bowmaster pings Dan for 1. John then goes to combat, swinging Collector Roof at Tyler. Tyler takes the damage and John then passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. Razorkin triggers to ping him for 1. Nixilis triggers to get a counter and exile Lotus Petal. He plays a City Brass as land for turn. He takes 1 to cast Static Prison. Nixilis triggers to get a counter and exile Lightning Bolt. Static Prison resolves and exiles Ob. Dan chooses to move up to the command zone. Tyler then goes to combat, swinging Tymna at Dan. Dan takes the damage, and in his second main phase, Tymna triggers. Tyler loses the life and draws a card. Bowmaster and Razorkin trigger. He takes 1 from Razorkin and then 1 more from Bowmaster. He protests as they all know Dan plays ad nauseum, but Cami is sure of her plan. Tyler then passes the turn. Cami untaps and plays Gaia's Cradle as land for turn. The table suddenly recognized the growing problem over there. Cami delves a lot of her graveyard to cast her commander, Tasigur, the Golden Fang. It resolves. She taps out to cast the next best card in her deck, Seedborn Muse. The table all whip their heads around as Ledger Shredder triggers, conniving Swan Song, getting a 1/1 counter. Razorkin triggers to ping her for 1. Cammy then goes to combat, swinging her Orc Army and Ledger Shredder at Dan. Dan takes 7, and Cammy passes the turn. Dan and Cammy untap together. The table start talking about the best way to chip through this board. Dan casts Lightning Bolt from exile, targeting Collector Roof, hoping to free up all of his mana. Cammy responds with a Mental Misstep, targeting Bolt. Tyler responds with a Vampiric Tutor. It resolves and he searches up a card at the top of his library, showing it as Ancient Tomb, losing 2 life. Misstep then counters Bolt. Dan plays Polluted Delta from exile as land for turn. He pays life and cracks it, fetching up a Raucous Theater. It triggers and he surveils, walking Ballista into his grave. Dan then casts Lotus Petal. Ledger Shredder triggers to connive Tainted Pact, getting a counter. Dan then passes the turn. In his end step, Cammy activates Tasigur twice. Her first spin mills Verdant Catacombs and City of Brass. John adds Mental Misstep to Cammy's hand. Her second spin mills Abrupt Decay and Force of Negation. John gives her Force of Negation. The turn then moves to John. John and Cammy untap together. John draws a card and Razorkin triggers to pick him for 1. In his main phase, Urza's Saga gets its second counter. John casts Sylvan Library. He then plays a Vesuva into play untapped as a copy of Bayou. John passes his turn. In his end step, Cammy activates Tasigur twice. Her first spin mills Grim Monolith and Hazel's Brewmaster. Dan gives her Grim Monolith. The second spin mills Elves of Deep Shadow and Force of Will. Dan gives her Elves of Deep Shadow. The turn then moves to Tyler. Tyler and Cammy untap together. Tyler draws and Razorkin triggers to pick him for 1. In his main phase, he pays 1 energy to keep Static Prison in the hopes that someone can bounce it. He plays Ancient Tomb as land for turn. He goes to combat, swinging Tymna at John. John takes the damage, and in his second main phase, Tymna triggers. Tyler loses a life to draw a card. Bowmaster and Razorkin trigger. Tyler takes 1, and Cammy pings Dan for 1. Tyler takes 3 to cast Delny, Streetwise Lookout. Tyler then passes his turn. In his end step, Cammy activates Tasigur twice. Her first spin mills Lotus Petal and Amphibian Downpour. Tyler gives her Lotus Petal. Her second spin mills Mox Diamond and Arcane Signet. Tyler gives her Arcane Signet. The turn then moves to Cammy. Cammy untaps and draws. She shows a Hullbreaker Horror in hand and tries to math out if she can just win this turn with it. She's 1 mana short, so she casts Grim Monolith. She then casts Arcane Signet. Ledger Shredder triggers to connive Elves of Deep Shadow, getting a counter. Razorkin triggers to ping her for 1. Cammy then activates Tasigur, milling Mindbreak Trap and the One Ring. John gives her Elves of Deep Shadow. Cammy then goes to combat, swinging her Orc Army and Ledger Shredder at John. John takes 9, and Cammy passes her turn. Dan and Cammy untap together. Dan goes into the tank, thinking of how to get out of this scenario. John offers to trade the Collector Roof with Razorkin if Dan swings in to unlock Dan's artifacts. Dan agrees, goes to combat, swinging Razorkin Needlehead at John. John blocks with Oof, and it dies. In his second main phase, Dan casts Chrome Mox. It resolves and he imprints Reckless Fireweaver. He then casts his commander, Nixilis, Captive Kingpin. Ledger Shredder triggers to connive Watery Grave. Razorkin triggers to ping Cammy for 1. Dan casts Demonic Tutor. Cammy responds with a Force of Negation, countering and exiling it. Dan decides to hold up mana and pass here. Cammy activates Tasigur twice. The first spin mills Polywog Prodigy and Flooded Strand. John gives her Polywog Prodigy. The second spin mills Exotic Orchard and Beseech the Mirror. John gives her Beseech the Mirror. In Dan's end step still, John channels Beseiju, who endures, targeting Gaia's Cradle. Gaia's Cradle is destroyed and Cammy searches up a tropical island. The turn finally moves to John. John and Cammy untap together. In his draw step, John draws 2 extra from Sylvan Library. 2 Bowmaster triggers and 3 Razorkin triggers go on the stack. John takes 1 and Nixilis triggers to get a counter and exile Rite of Flame. John takes 1 more and Ob triggers to get a counter and exile Command Tower. John takes his last damage and Ob gets a counter and exiles Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. Bowmaster then pings Razorkin twice, killing him. John finally goes to his main phase and Urza's Saga triggers to get its third counter. In response, John floats a colorless mana. Urza's Saga resolves to fetch up a Zuran Orb to the battlefield. John plays a Strip Mine for turn. He casts his commander, Lumra, Bellow of the Woods. The table knows that this card will effectively win the game on the spot and they need to answer it, eyeing the Force of Will in Cammy's grave. John begs the table to see reason. He says if they let him spin his wheels here, he will only kill Cammy with this loop and then pass the turn with the same board state more or less. The table don't like John getting 1,000 mana and life and decide it's not worth it. Cammy activates Tasigur, milling Cyclonic Rift and Mana Confluence. Dan gives her Force of Will. Cammy casts Force of Will, paying a life and exiling Polywog Prodigy as an alternate cost. Lumra is countered, and John passes the turn. Tyler and Cammy untap together. Tyler goes to combat and swings Tymna at John, and Delny at Dan. At this point, Tyler notices Static Prison was supposed to be sacrificed. Dan and John take the damage. In his second main phase, Tymna triggers twice through Delny. He pays 2 life to draw 2 cards twice in a row. Bowmaster triggers 4 times to ping Tyler for 4. Nixilis triggers 4 times, getting 4 counters and exiling some cards. Tyler then decides now is the time to go for it. He casts his other commander, Dargo the Shipwrecker, sacrificing Chrome Mox and both of his creatures as an additional cost. Dargo resolves. He then casts Mana Vault. Ledger Shredder triggers to connive Carpet of Flowers, getting a counter. Tyler then casts Sacrifice, sacrificing Dargo as an additional cost. Cami responds with a mental misstep, countering Sacrifice. Tyler then casts Arcane Signet. He then casts Relic of Legends. The table get a bit more worried, and it resolves. He then recasts Dargo, sacrificing Mana Vault as an additional cost. Dargo enters, and he taps into Relic of Legends to cast Goblin Bombardment. The table sees the final piece of the puzzle, and they have to act here. Cami activates Tasigur twice. Her first spin mills Soul Ring and Fierce Guardianship. John gives her Force of Will. Her second spin mills Overgrown Tomb and Culling Ritual. John adds Carpet of Flowers to her hand, hoping the only blue card in her hand is Hullbreaker Horror. With the table out of options, Cami casts Force of Will, paying a life and exiling Hullbreaker Horror as an additional cost. The table does a minor cheer, but no one is feeling good right now. With this, Goblin Bombardment is countered, and Tyler passes the turn. Cami taps and draws. She casts Lotus Petal. She goes into the tank, thinking of how she can win the game now, knowing there is no resistance. She casts Demonic Tutor. It resolves, and Cami searches up a Neoform, which she casts, sacrificing Tasigur as an additional cost. Neoform resolves, putting Scholar the Lost Trove into play. Scholar triggers to cast Neoform from her grave, sacrificing Scholar as an additional cost. She puts Hoarding Broodlord into play. Broodlord triggers to search up a card into exile. Cami convokes some of her creatures to cast her mystery card, which is Saw in Half, targeting Broodlord. Broodlord is destroyed, and Cami makes 2 new token Broodlords. They both trigger, exiling 2 cards face down. She convokes to help pay for her first card, Thassa's Oracle. It enters and triggers. In response, she convokes her other mystery card, Demonic Consultation. Cami names Shieldred the Apocalypse. She exiles her whole library, not finding it. Thassa's Oracle's trigger then resolves, and with that, Cami wins the game. So, what did we learn today? If the table is trying to pull together against Seedwar Muse, maybe consider tutoring interaction instead of just putting new wins on the stack. If you have any tips for the video, leave them below. Subscribe if you feel like it. Until next time, keep making value plays.
Damn.
Oh.
Bye, Bob.
Oh.
Pass.
Yeah, that is the end of my game.
Goodbye, Bob. John has played every card that is like so perfect against the deck that I'm playing. Literally.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Play a swamp.
What?
And then I'm gonna take 2 Cabal Ritual.
Okay.
Okay.
4 Seedwar Muse.
Oh no. Oh my god.
Oh no.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I can't do shit here. And what I need is that Oofgone.
Okay, well I can't even block with it.
Okay, I can get rid of it.
I can't stop you.
Okay.
I'm mono green. I have a fucking colorless mana.
That's good.
What is
That's good.
That's
What are you
good.
saying,
That's
dude?
good.
Do whatever you're gonna do. I
I
can't protect you from that force negation.
If
But
we-
I won't give her any new stuff.
feel like, yeah, if we work together.
Yeah, great. I'm mono green.
You're working alone, Dan.
I threw away my only thing to help you. What more do you want?
Dude,
My firstborn? Yeah. Make her burn it. And I'll win.
I'm gonna cast Ob first. It's possible to give me some cards.
The truth comes out, dude.
These are all.
It is tough.
Because like none of us want each other to win, but we also like are just.
I'm
like,
gonna put a
living
win
in-
on the stack
Yeah.
right now.
Right, and then I'm gonna have to give Cammy a card that helps stop you.
Oh yeah, we can give her force.
What the hell?
No, that's a good call.
You have force or will?
Yeah.
Yeah, she does.
I'll tell you what. Wanna let me durdle a minute and try to kill Cammy? Because I'm gonna do the same thing.
We're hoping
You
to
really
find something
don't.
that wins. You said.
It's up to you. You want me to try and kill her or do nothing? You can say nothing,
If
and
you-
then I'm gonna pass. You force on the bear?
Yeah. Pay 1 life.
Look, it got countered. I passed.
Bombardment.
That will win the game. You know what? No, I'll give you force. Make you pitch a card.
Yeah, literally. We just literally will go around in circles and just continue to give that person an opportunity to stop every win attempt, and then eventually they will win.
I feel like the problem is any of us could be like tutoring removal or other things. I feel like we're only putting wins on the stack.
Unnamed Shieldred.
No.
She not in there.
How'd she find it? Yay, Cammy wins.
Woo!
We're fucking out of here.